Hawley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to both of the witnesses for being here. Thank you for your service. Mr. Helvey, let me start with you. Can you give me your assessment of whether our withdrawal in Afghanistan will allow the department to focus more resources and attention on our pacing theater, the Indo-Pacific, and China in particular?
I think the intent would be that, yes, as we withdraw our forces and reduce our commitment in Afghanistan while maintaining the ability to monitor Afghanistan for counter-terrorist threats, that resources that we would be able to accrue, we would be able to distribute to our other areas, including Indo-Pacific, where we face the pacing challenge.
And I assume, just on that point, that when you talk about distributing resources elsewhere, I assume that PACOM and the China challenge in particular would be at the top of the list in terms of receiving any resources that were freed up. Is that fair to say?
Senator, I can't speak for the Secretary's decision on that, but I know he's spoken about looking to redistribute resources to our pacing challenge.
Very good. General McKenzie said last month, Mr. Helvey, that he's concerned about the ability of the Afghan military to hold on after we leave. That's a quote from him, knowing that if the Afghan military collapses, the Afghan government probably would too. So with that in mind, is the department currently developing plans for achieving our counterterrorism objectives should the Afghan government collapse?
Senator, yes, we are. We're looking at developing mechanisms or plans for doing over-the-horizon counterterrorism capabilities, but also we are looking at ways of providing continued support and assistance to our Afghan partners even after we conclude our retrograde plan.
Let me ask you about some of the partners. Is the department considering reconstituting the Northern Alliance or finding other ways to work with local partners there in Afghanistan to achieve our CT objectives?
Senator, our principal focus is working with the government in Kabul, and how we would do that. Those plans are still being developed, and I'd be happy to talk in a little bit more detail in the closed session.
Fair enough. You said last week, Mr. Helvey, that sustained funding for the Afghan security forces is going to be critical for achieving our CT objectives in Afghanistan. Let me just ask you, though, given the I would say, notable lack of success we've had thus far with the Afghan security forces in terms of standing them up, achieving a high level of efficiency and output. Under what conditions are we willing to say, would you say, that the Afghan security forces are no longer effective and U.S. funding for them ought to be reduced or eliminated?
Senator, I would say that we have had some tremendous success in working with the Afghan forces, the Afghan Air Forces and Special Mission Wing in particular, and the Afghan Special Forces have been very close partners for us through our CT missions. To your point, though, there will be a time, and this has to be how we look at what the criteria would be for adjusting our security force assistance planning, and that is part of the work that we're doing today in concert with the United States Central Command, Joint Staff, and our presence in Kabul to look at what the different criteria would be or indicators would be to adjust how we provide that type of assistance and to whom.
So has the department developed criteria then for adjusting or terminating the Forces Fund, the Afghan Security Forces Fund?
No decisions have been made yet, but we are looking at we are doing prudent planning right now to look at how we'd be able to provide that and how we may look to change it in terms of, as the security conditions change.
No decisions have been made, but you have developed criteria for assessing our continued support and what we might do there going forward in terms of continuing or terminating the fund. Is that right?
I think that work is still being developed. I understand from General McKenzie that he intends to provide a lot of his recommendations to the Secretary by the end of this month. So I'd like to let that process continue. I'm
asking because we spend to the tune of $4 billion a year on this objective. That's not an insignificant chunk of change. That's, in fact, about what we spend each year on the Pacific Deterrence Initiative, if I'm not mistaken. Has the department done an analysis of whether we can achieve our counterterrorism objectives in Afghanistan if the Afghan security forces are no longer viable if they collapse?
In the absence of a capable and willing partner, our ability to do our CT objectives in Afghanistan becomes significantly harder. But as the General indicated, based on historic precedent, we have been able to conduct counterterrorism operations exclusively from over the horizon. However, having as I said, a willing and capable partner in Afghanistan is a critical piece of our CT capabilities. If that goes away, it becomes much harder, greater risk, and it will be more costly.
This is my last question, Mr. Chairman. Just on that point, the partner may be the security forces, or it may be other. It may be the Northern Alliance. It may be other allies or partners. Maybe not allies, partners in country, though, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be the security forces. Is that right?
History would indicate it doesn't have to be the security forces.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hawley. Senator Blumenthal, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you both for your